is certain. There is no dead among the living. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Matthew 5:23-24. Well, we see clearly what Jesus meant there, that there was no separation anywhere. He saw that his brother himself, that the one was the other, and there could be no separation. And the brother was really the spirit as well as the spirit within the one who was offering his gift. And if there was enmity between one another, God was no longer a division. He wasn't divided because there was enmity between one another. That divided in the mind of man, but not a division. So Jesus saw there was no division anywhere. Therefore he saw clearly, unless you make this reconciliation to your brother, therefore there is no use of offering your gift. In other words, if you have anything against your brother, or your brother has anything against you, your prayer is idolatry. That is the trouble today. Our prayers are idolatrous. For the simple reason is this, that we are hating one another while we are praying to God. One part of the world is praying to one God to help them, so the other part of the world is praying to their God to help them too. But God is not divided, and the individual who sees this, therefore, recedes away from these beliefs and these divisions. And Jesus was showing clearly to those who came to offer their gift, that if they offered their gift while they were at enmity with their brother, it was of no use, because their prayer was idolatrous. We have already begun to know that 90% of our mental life is under the surface. What we hear, see, etc. through the senses is absorbed into the mind. Then it is either accepted, rejected, or becomes rearranged with other impressions previously received. It is quite easy to see that if we are wide awake, what the individual mind is made up of. The mind of most people is a conglomeration of ideas which become the fixed expression of the mind. Now we see then that knowledge is limited, and knowledge is not stable. Only wisdom is wise, only wisdom is stable, because it is beyond mind. Mind is accumulation. Knowledge is accumulated through the mind, and therefore knowledge is not stable. It is, as it were, a floating thing, moving in and out. What we receive into our minds, we either reject, accept, or we receive to be mixed in with the various ideas and images and knowledge we have already received in the mind. The mind then rearranges all these things according to an association. Everything is associated in the mind because the mind is a vehicle of expression and has within itself the capacity to rearrange all ideas according to the acceptance of the idea. If you actually believe a certain thing, you have a central idea around which every other idea is absorbed. For instance, if I give you a mark on the board here, and I say, that is a particular idea. That's in the mind which becomes the basis of the mind. Whether the idea may be right or wrong makes no difference. The idea may be a right one, it may be a wrong one. It may be in opposition to another idea, and it may be in opposition to another belief. Nevertheless, it's the core of your belief and your ideas. Therefore, what happens to you, according to the way you are brought up, The influences that is bearing upon you according to your religious life, your family life, your environment, the nationality and so forth that you are born under, you accumulate around that basic idea, and therefore it becomes the basis of what you think. It's not until such time as you realize that the idea is just an idea, and when you know what an idea is, it's an accumulation of something that's brought about through your influences, through your memory, through your experiences, and through your belief. But if you know what a belief is and what an idea is, therefore this thing begins to dissolve away. It begins to break up. And as soon as it begins to break up, then you're free. Because if you are caught up with the dominant idea in your mind, then you will find that you are not free. You are not free because of the fact that you will be expressing the idea, which is your own conditioning. Supposing that you look upon a Chinaman as a Chinaman, you look upon a Russian as a Russian, you look upon a German as a German, and you are prejudiced. You look upon a Scotsman as a Scotsman, and therefore you may be prejudiced. But if you strip these people entirely of their conditioning and your conditioning, and see them as they really are, then you will not be conditioned. And not only that, you will approach that individual free from conditioning. And that's the only true relationship we have. But don't you see, if you have a peculiar idea about your nationality, and a peculiar idea about the offensiveness of another nationality, if you have a particular idea about a religion, and you have an antipathy against the individual who follows another religion, then you can have no relationship at all, because you will be expressing your conditioning. There is no relationship. There is a division completely within you, and there is nothing. You've got no relationship at all. Now, that is the cause of these ideas. And the idea, which is the basic idea, very often a religious idea, because religion, to a great extent, in the majority of families, is the basis of their lives. They are brought up according to the religion and is the basic principle in their whole living. Now, from their infancy, they are controlled and directed towards that end. You can easily see, then, why people are in opposition to others. Enmity between other people have other types of religions. And you can see then why people have enmity between one nationality and another. You can see why people have hatreds between one political group and another. You can see all these things clearly. But if you don't see them, then you're caught up in them. You see, you must know the false to be able to know the true. But if you do not know the false, you will never know the true. And you will never have any relationship whatsoever with anyone, because you'll be isolating yourselves. It's not a state of isolation that we come to see and to get for the majority of people. It is a unity when man is stripped of all his conditioning. There he stands as he is, the Son, the child of God. That is the true relationship between one another. But how many people see it? And that's what I'm trying to show you, how you have these fixed ideas. Now, according to what your mind is made up of, so you will accept or reject. So you are just reacting automatically without understanding. Therefore, you act automatically. You reject, you accept without understanding. Now, what a stupid mind that is. Don't you think so? It is very, very stupid and unreasonable. But unless you see that it is stupid, you will continue to do so. And what I am trying to show you this is the false. If I can show you the false, then the true is there. I don't have to show you the true. How can I show you the true? Anyhow, the true is there. It doesn't have to be created. It is not created. It is there as a living expression of reality itself. Then if I show you the false, and the false dissolves away, there is the true. But if you do not know the false, then you will never know the true. And you will never be able to know the true. And you have no relationship with one another. You will still be divided individually, collectively, nationally, east and west. And there can be no peace in the world. There can be no happiness until such time as we be able to realize what is false. Everybody's trying to teach you, give you some ideal, and you hold to this ideal, but all the time you're struggling with this thing, instead of seeing it for what it is and letting it go and having no ideal. It's not necessary to have an ideal. An ideal leads you away from reality. What is an ideal anyhow? Is it not a creation in your mind through which this same thing happens again? And all this is gathered around this particular ideal becomes your conditioning. It is freedom you require. I have no ideal. I only want to see the false. That's all. Because I know that everything else is true. I know I do not have to create the true. I do create the false, but I do not create the true. Neither do you. No one creates the true. The true is. But what you do create is the false. Therefore, if you see the false, what happens to it? You understand it, don't you? It falls away. And there is the truth. It is so easy. I always say it's so terribly easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. The truth is so easy because you don't have to create it. It is. It's a self-expressing itself. I can see how easy it was for Jesus to do the things he did because of the fact he saw the false. And because he discerned the false, it no longer hindered the expression of that which was true. A great deal of our mental makeup is hereditary. We follow tradition, a belief in religion, belief in death and hell and the devil. We follow a pattern made for us, so we are imitators and not thinkers. We conform, we believe, we follow, we become mere mental robots without understanding. Is it not so that the majority of people are mere mental robots without understanding anything at all, that just follow? They imitate. Now, I don't want you to be imitators. I don't want you to believe what I say, because it will give you misery if you try to believe or an idea that I give you. That's your misery, not mine, because I have no belief. I don't want to believe. I don't want an ideal, because it's going to take me away from that which is really true. Is God not expressing himself? Is he not all complete in everything? He is the livingness within me, the livingness within you. If you are born into a European family, you will probably follow the Christian religion. Now, this religion is subdivided into many different dogmas, each claiming that theirs is the true path. So you will generally follow the one your parents follow. You are conditioned before you're even born. The same applies to the Hindu, to the Mohammedan. Any of you have lived in the East have seen the danger of these religious sects, how so many thousands have been killed and murdered because of the religion. It is not on a few years ago when Britain left India to form her own dominion, or whatever they like to call it, her own country under her own control. And what happened? The Mohammedans and the Hindus began to kill each other in the thousands. There was no hope. They fought, they killed each other, destroyed and burnt each other's homes and houses, and did everything that was possible under the guise of religion. Therefore, you see, it's the so-called religious man is the danger to humanity. Is that not so? It's the man with the belief that's the danger to humanity. People are not quarreling and fighting over material things. They are fighting over beliefs and ideas. The idea of the East and the idea of the West. That's what people are fighting over. They are not fighting over the things. We can either come to terms about things, but we cannot come to terms with our ideals and our beliefs. Because why? Because of this, that central idea that becomes the point through which everything flows around and is attracted to. You're conditioned. And that is your conditioning continuously as it flows around. And there you are, you're conditioned. How are you going to break away from it? Are you going to struggle to break away from it? There's no need to struggle. Immediately you struggle, you give it a power it does not possess. Struggling is not necessary. What is necessary is understanding what it is. And without struggle, it passes away. And without struggle, that which is takes its place. You're all struggling. Why are you struggling? You've got an ideal of good and you're struggling with evil. You've an idea of success and you're struggling with failure. You've an idea of plenty and you're struggling with lack. All the time you're living in opposites. Why? Because you're in conflict. Look into your minds and you will see what I'm telling you is true. But if you see how false this is, you pass away. I am. I do not have to be. The Creator is not an idea to me. The Creator is my livingness, my expression. I don't have to pray to a God outside myself. I know that the Father and I are one. There is no separation and no division. There cannot be. So our outlook is more or less the result of imitations which we have inherited from past generations. So we are caught up in the confusion of our forefathers. We think we know, but we don't know. Beware of the individual who says he knows, because when he says he knows, you will definitely be aware of the fact that he does not know. The conditions existing today are caused by the ignorance of yesterday, and the generation to come will follow in our footsteps and will inherit our mistakes. Unless we begin to think clearly for ourselves now, we will perpetuate the ignorance and confusion of the past. So will the next generation do the same if our transformation does not take place now. The great thing is, how can we make the world a better place to live in? We can only do this by seeing the cause of our confusion today. What are we trying to do in the world today? Are we not trying to create an ideal? Each one creating this ideal, still maintaining our separate devices, our separate nationalities, our separate particular antagonisms, our enmities, our different divisions and nationalities and so forth and groups. And we're holding on to a particular ideal that we will say, when this ideal becomes real, it will be wonderful. Still we maintain our own divisions. How in all the earth can that ideal, which is only a creation of the mind, come into being? It will never do. You hang on to your ideal, yet you struggle with this. But if you understand the whole process of ideals, the whole process of your mental makeup, the whole process of your conditioning, and if you see then how you have conditioned yourself by giving the other individual a name because of the fact that you are conditioned regarding him, or whatever the case may be, when you understand that, and that only, and no more, then there will be a freedom from the conditioning which is hindering the expression of the real. We have a great deal of knowledge, but what we need is more wisdom. Unless we see that knowledge and wisdom are not the same, we will never progress. Knowledge being experience and memory can never bring wisdom into being, because wisdom is beyond. It is not something of the mind. Wisdom is from moment to moment. Now, at this very moment, is always moment to moment, because it's alive and living. It's the expression of the Almighty. Whereas knowledge can never be free from the past, from time. Is knowledge only tied to time, tied to the past, tied to the future, while wisdom is the eternal expression of that infinite creativeness now. Therefore, you must see the difference between knowledge and wisdom. But what do people do? They clamber after knowledge, that this knowledge will give them this and give them that. What has knowledge done to the world today? On one side it has helped humanity, on the other side it has destroyed humanity. Can this go on indefinitely? I think not. I think we're coming now to the time, and I don't think it's very far off, perhaps a few months, before we will see, one way or another, there shall be peace, or shall there be war? Shall we still maintain the divisions between humanity? I think we will. Why? Because your leaders have not yet recognized what is false. They are conditioned, just as you have been conditioned since your infancy. It is only the few in the world today that has seen this calamity coming right before our eyes. And man seems to suffer before he realizes the truth. Perhaps in a few months. It can't last much longer. I think myself that by September, October this year, we will find whether there's going to be peace or whether there's going to be more trouble. That's all about it. And unless we have true leadership, we will still be caught up. Do you think that a military leader is the one to lead us out of our difficulties? Do you think a political leader is the one that will lead us out of our difficulties? I don't think so. The only person or the only one that can lead you out of your difficulty is wisdom. And wisdom only comes to the mature, not to the immature. The immature must recognize the false before they become mature. And it is the recognition of the false that matures you, brings wisdom into being. If I had anything to do with the conferences, I would say clearly and distinctly, gentlemen, every one of you have different ideals. You have different nationalities. You come here with your divisions to try and bring about the solving of the problem which is yourselves. How can you solve the problem of yourselves if you're still divided? But if you can see clearly the falseness of your divisions, the falseness of your ideals, then, gentlemen, I can assure you, you will find a way out of the morass of your own conditioning that is breaking the world. Peace is already here now. It is not created. Peace is not created. Peace is that which the Master gave, not as the world gives its peace, but that peace that is eternal and ever-present. And if you can discern your own conditioning, your own falseness, and the things that is preventing the expression of this peace, then there shall be peace, but not before. Therefore, gentlemen, you come here with your conflicts and your divisions to solve the problem of unity. You can go away before you create more trouble, unless you come and see the falseness of all your divisions. Then there shall be freedom. In that freedom there is peace, there is wisdom, there is understanding, there is love, because it's the foundation of the universe. You will notice that what is made up in your mind, all these things are will be conditioned from the past. From your infancy you have been born here and there. You've been caught up in your own conditioning, and therefore you're built up according to the core of your ideal, which is granting you understanding the ideals of others, which are just as false as your own. But when the falseness is seen, it passes away. Then you can come together free, as free men, with true relationship between one another, not with the enmity and conditioning of the other with your own conditioning, but a freedom to bring peace and understanding to the masses of the world. You are the ones now that can lead us into peace or lead us into war. Responsibility is yours. That's how I will speak. Wisdom is free from time. Knowledge is accumulation, which is binding. Wisdom is immediate and free from accumulation, and is not binding. Knowledge deals with facts. Wisdom is beyond facts. Wisdom is creative. Knowledge is created. Knowledge is of the mind. Wisdom is of the spirit. Spirit is now. It is eternal. Knowledge is bit by bit. Wisdom frees us from the conditioning process of knowledge. Therefore, it is wisdom. That's why when Solomon asked for wisdom, that's why he got everything else, because wisdom gave him everything else. And because he did not ask for anything less than wisdom, he got everything, because wisdom was above knowledge. Wisdom was the directing power of knowledge. Knowledge cannot free us, nor will it free the generations to come. We should know now that knowledge cannot save us. Only wisdom can. Unless we discern the differences between knowledge and wisdom, we'll never realize that one light that is present everywhere. It is all wisdom and intelligence there is, and it is not divided. It is not an isolating process, while knowledge is. So you will see that if we go anywhere with knowledge on earth and with no wisdom, we shall never be free. Wisdom must lead, for knowledge can never be wise. Only wisdom is wise. Therefore, wisdom is greater than knowledge. Wisdom is a realization of the source of all things. Thus, we will maintain harmonious relations in all walks of life. How many men in the world can you say was like Jesus? Yes, you can say Confucius, Aristotle, a few more, some of the great yogis and so forth, but I will stand above all. I will say there was never yet one who came with wisdom, so great a wisdom as the man Jesus. He was really truly the Son of God because he expressed the wisdom of the Father. And in all his words, if you search them diligently and deeply, not reading them on the surface because you are confused with your own confusion, and you will read them according to your conditioning. But if you discern what your conditioning is and how it comes about and dissolve it, then take his readings, take his words and read them, and you'll be amazed at the tremendous truth that reveals, the truth that reveals that is beyond time, the wisdom that is beyond knowledge, but a foundation for a world brotherhood, peace, and harmony, and plenty. And there is plenty of scientific knowledge in the world today for the manufacture of all the things we need, for all the food that is necessary for all the people in the world. But what is holding back this gigantic, wonderful expression of nature? I will tell you, your divisions, your nationalities, your conditioning. One nationality against another, those divisions which exist all over the world, present day, is preventing all that scientific knowledge that is our hands today for the production of things and food for humanity. Time will come when men with great vision will come into the world. There are a few of them now, and I think that there will be very shortly those men who will come to the fore. I feel that myself, I'm not praising anybody by any means, remember that. But I think that Dr. Mayer is one of these leaders who will eventually come to the fore to bring about a better understanding through the great industrial capacity of the world, not only of this country, but of the world. And that's what it needs. It needs men of vision. Men not only of knowledge, but men of vision who have the wisdom, bring about the understanding between great, large organizations. And if we can have at the head of large organizations a pillar of wisdom, all those people associated with our organization will be brought into it. But what do we see? We do not have men of wisdom at the head of various organizations, but men of knowledge. And what do we see? A division between the employer and the employees. We find then that we have great unions built up from the workers' side in opposition to those who are creative in the employer side. And we have division. We have people going slow. We have so much of this turmoil in the world through the industrial stupidness of leaders in both sides that know nothing, that are caught up in their own conditioning, in their own beliefs of the worker, in their own beliefs of the employer. So the world is divided between the employer and the employees. How can you ever have success in a world that is divided? There is no such thing as division in reality. And reality is the wisdom that must come to the fore to bring all together as one whole family, working in harmony and conjunction for the benefit of all. For the whole is one whole and is not divided. There is no division anywhere. And when you seek a division, then you seek destruction. The great hindrance in life is holding on to old fixed ideas, which have long outlived their usefulness. As we begin to understand, we will discard old ideas that are isolating and destroying. We will discard the ideas of separate beliefs, of limited science, the belief in the power of man as a separate entity, the belief that God inflicts man with all kinds of disease, that God punishes man, and that there is a hell and a devil and all the stupid contraptions built up in the ignorant mind, and all this must be discarded and dissolved. Have we not held fast to the fixed ideas of the past and perpetuated the errors that burden us? Are we to pass this burden on to the next generation? We will do so unless we begin to think for ourselves now and not follow blind fools. For Jesus will write, the blind lead the blind and they all fall into the ditch. Wrong thinking can never bring about right thinking. We've accepted the psychological junk that security is based upon the expansion of the self. And that's what you've been taught by all those so-called psychological teachers. And those so-called, what I call false prophets, who'd come and tell you that you can do this manifestation and this manifestation and you will get this. You want a motor car, you want a house, you sit down and then you think you shall get it and you picture this in your mind. No more stupid rot was ever written or spoken. Is that not the expansion of the self? Is that not leading you away from reality? Where there is everything, where there is truth and light, abundance, peace and harmony in reality. Then why have you not got peace? Because you are out to expand the self. If you dissolve the self away, if you at once know that the self is nothing, the Spirit of the Father within me doing the work. Yes, security is based upon the expansion of the self. This only separates man from man and limits his achievements. It makes us fearful of another. It breaks down our health and sends thousands into mental homes. It is for us to eradicate the error through understanding the cause. Then we can free ourselves and those who follow. Those who follow the errors of the past can be freed too. But not until you have freed yourself. How can you free another unless you have freed yourself? Is it possible? Of course it's not possible. The universal mind is impersonal, undisturbed, fearless. It is love, intelligence, and wisdom. The universal mind is the only mind there is. There can be no other, it being universal. To possess the qualities of the universal, we must discern that which is hindering its expression in us. Have you discerned any of these things that have been hindering the expression of reality? Or have you just been reacting to what I've been saying? You've been reacting in what we call the intellectual level. Then if you have only been reacting in the intellectual level, you have done nothing. You've only created another idea, and that's more binding. But if you have discerned and felt what I have said to you, then you will bring action, and action will bring the discernment of that which is false, and the discernment of that which is false will bring freedom. Then in that freedom is reality. I'm not telling you what reality is. You can find that out for yourself, and you can find it out immediately you discard that which is false. We are the receiver, the universal mind is a transmitter. When we understand this, we see why silence gives us tremendous power. But a silence that is not controlled, a silence that is not demanded or forced, but a silence that comes through the discernment of the false and the conflict and the ideals that are creating the conditioning of your mind. And the understanding of these things will bring a cessation of the conflict. And in the cessation of the conflict, the mind will become quiet of its own nature. And in that quietness of the mind, there you will find reality. But it's not in a mind that is still in conflict, and you try to suppress that mind, to hold it in subjection. This is not like putting a little boy in the corner while he's irritated all the time, and he tries to get away, but he's still irritated. Is he quiet? That's what you try to do with your mind. When we are universal, the universal can work through us, and this can be immediate when we see that which is hindering it. We can only realize the power of the silence when the silence is reached. But the silence is not reached through dreaming, nor is it reached through concentration on an idea to the exclusion of all else. It comes into being through awareness of what is preventing the silence now. For only through awareness does the universal function. When you are continually aware of the false, then the universal functions. Why? Because you're discerning the false all the time, understanding it. It's dropping away from you. Although you live amongst it, live in it, you understand it, it no longer troubles you. You can't get out of it. You're in the relative. You live in the relative. You don't want to get out of the world. To try and get out of the world is stupid. But to live in the world and understand the world and understand the conflict and the cause of conflict, then you're helping your brother. But to try and rise out of the condition away from the conflict, it is useless because there is no division. Do you think you can separate yourself from your brother? I think not. It's all stupid nonsense like ideals in your mind. You cannot run away from the conditions of the world. To understand them, you can help to solve. And by doing so, you help yourself because you are the world. Practice is the thing that enables us to be proficient in the art of awareness, living and acting. In us, the Spirit of God is individualized, and we must seek the law of causation by ourselves, for by no other means can it be found. Then we will know that we are the cause of all the effects we produce. Hence the necessity of understanding the cause. Are we not conditioned by our past, by conformity, by the desire for our advancement, by the subtle accumulation of power? And though we may be outwardly active, we are inwardly dead. We seek the continuity, so we are caught up in time. What is time, anyhow? There is the chronological time, and there is also another time, psychological process of continuity. The chronological time, we work it out according to the movement of the sun and the earth, revolving around on its own axis. every 24 hours. Therefore, it moves, and its own being 24,000 miles in circumference, it creates 124 hours, 1,000 miles an hour, and makes one complete circle. And being 93 million miles away from the sun, it moves round the sun on 365 days and a few hours. And we calculate then the year by the time the earth revolves around the sun and the earth revolves on its own axis. A continuation, but that's not time. That's chronological time. We have put the thing into a chronological time. We create the time. God never created time. Man created time. And then there's the psychological time of continuity. Why do you want to continue? Continuity must have a beginning and an ending, must it not? Otherwise, had we no continuity at all. Therefore, continuity must be blotted out continuously. Absolutely. Being and being, there is no continuity. There is no beginning and no ending. But with you and your pathological time, what is it you want to have to continue? Yes, you want to have to continue this sort of thing. You want what you've got to continue. But that's a state of limitation. You're living in time, therefore you're living in a state of limitation. There is no limitation in the time. We want to continue, and in the very desire to continue, we create the process of time and the fear of not continuing. It is the fear of not continuing that we are afraid of, is it not? That's what you're afraid of. That's why you're afraid of death, because it's going to end your continuity. But what is death? Death isn't you, it's an idea, is it not? You think now about it. It's the idea of death, is it not, that you're afraid of? You're not afraid of death itself. When you understand what death is, you're no longer afraid of it, because you know what it is. But you're afraid of the idea of death, because you do not know what a death is. Because you're caught up in the idea of death, and you're afraid. After all, what is it that continues? If we live from moment to moment, we will know death, for we die each moment. The moment that's past is dead, but the moment now is a living, and it's a continual moment-to-moment living. And therefore he who lives now, ever in the ever-present, knows death and life to be same. They're both in the same cup. You drink them every moment. For we die each moment to live each moment. And knowing death, we shall know life, because the two are not very different. If we do not know how to live, we're afraid of death. But if we know how to live, there is no death. I cannot give it to you, but you can find it for yourself. In your living every moment, you will know life and death of one. There is no division in life. There is no end or beginning in life. The life in me is no way separated from the totality of all life in the universe. I am no way separated or divided from God or you. You cannot find that in idea. And if you accept that as an idea only in your mind, it's stupid. You must find it out for yourselves, and therefore it will become a reality to you, not a mere idea. I'm not teaching you ideas, I'm cutting them out of your head. At least I'm trying to. But if you can see clearly what is false, what is living, then you shall know what death is. Death is nothing but an illusion of the mind. Most people do not know how to live, so they look upon death as a negation of life. Therefore, they are afraid of death. But if we understand what living is, we shall know death in the very process of living. So, they say that death is a negation of life where there is no life. But can there be anywhere where there is no life? Is there any portion of the whole universe in where there is no life? When life is eternal and ever-present and is not divided? You can find out that for yourselves, that there is no division. The difficulty is for us to die to all things that we have accumulated to yesterday. Yes, it's difficult as to die to yesterday, to our accumulation to one thing or another. It is only when we die from moment to moment to the things of yesterday and then understand the whole significance of continuity, then there is the unknown. That which continues can never know the unknown. For that which continues is the known. But if you die to the known, the unknown will reveal itself and has no continuity. For continuity means a beginning and an ending. But that which is beyond time has no beginning and no ending. And I am that which is beyond time. There was no time when I was not. Most people live only in the known, therefore yesterday and tomorrow become more important than the ever-present. But the ever-present is the eternal, and therefore we must die to the known to realize the unknown. It is the known that wants continuity. The moment that is past must come to an end before the renewal takes place, because you'll be living in the moment that's past. You try to recapture that moment in your memory when it's but a memory, when the living present moment is now. Still you try to capture that which is past. It cannot be done. It is the dying to the known that reveals the unknown. So death and life are in the same cup. Some say that we have overcome death, but surely anything that has to be overcome must be overcome again and again. When you conquer your enemy, you have to conquer him again and again. That's why wars continue. The moment you vanquish one, there is another to be vanquished. And so that which is overcome can never be understood. That's why Jesus never fell for force, which he could have used as they wanted him to use to be king. He knew perfectly well if you overcame by force, you would all have to overcome by force again, and it would continue overcoming. Only through love and through wisdom could all things come true. Overcoming is merely a form of suppression, and that which is suppressed, whether it is internal or external, can never be understood. The overcoming of fear is merely the postponing of that fear. So it is with the fear of death.